Hello, and welcome to the making of Trooper. I'm Mark Haldane, and I did this film. So I'm going to start off by looking at some of the pre-production work, which is mostly concept art and designs of characters and environments. Now the idea is Trooper lives for fairly long periods of time aboard the ship with her family, because her family work there, so she's got her own room and set up on the ship, which had to be factored into the designs. There's some early concepts of the good ship and the bad ship. They had to get changed later on to try and make them more obvious, just by looking at it, which one was friendly and nice looking and which one looked more kind of menacing. Now here's some of the first character drawings. I kind of had an idea right away of what she'd look like, and it's just kind of stuck there. Small changes here and there, but mostly the same. And here's the final turnaround. And now a look at the 2D animation process. I did most of the 2D animation myself. This is my studio space here. Now the whole thing started off with a storyboard, which then went on to become an animatic to plan out all the scenes. After that, each scene has a layout drawn, which is where I design the background and plan out all the action that's going to take place in the scene. After that, it can be animated. It starts off being animated on paper with pencil, then after that it's cleaned up, coloured and composited, and then you have a final scene. Here's a few examples of the switch from pencils to the final thing. And here's a very sped up video of me. This is me doing the cleanup. I started off using pens on paper, but then I found that using a tablet and the computer, while slightly slower, gave a much neater, cleaner result, which gave basically nicer looking animation in the end. The drawings didn't boil or wobble as much as they might have if I'd used pens on paper. Once the animation and compositing is done on a scene, there's sometimes certain effects that are added with the computer afterwards. For example, the electricity effects here were drawn frame by hand, but then I've used Adobe After Effects to add glows. Using similar methods, I've added reflections and shadows, blurs, anything I think is missing from the scene or would enhance the scene, usually stuff that you can't draw by hand. For example, the cannon fire here was again frame by frame. Then blurs and glows were added just to make it look a lot more boom. And here just simulating a camera focus effect. Now while the film is primarily 2D, there are quite a few 3D elements in the film, most notably the spaceships. All the exterior shots of the ships are 3D animation. So I would draw all the designs, which I would then pass on to Rob Connor, who did all the modelling for me, and he did an excellent job. We'd have a good process because he would do the initial models, then bring them to me, and I would say that's good, change that, tweak it a little bit, and we kept going like that until we had the final model. It just looked exactly as I was wanting. Now the idea for the rendering was to try and make it look as 2D and flat as possible, so we used very sort of solid cartoony lighting, and all the textures are very simple and flat, because I wanted to make sure the 2D and the 3D went together as well as possible. I didn't want it to jar too much. And here's a little model I made out of plasticine of the pirate ship, because I found it's a very tricky shape to describe just by drawings, and I think it helped Rob a lot to have a 3D model to look at, and the ships come out looking beautifully. Now here's a shot from the film that I really wanted to have in 3D because I wanted a camera movement that would be almost impossible to do in 2D. So I drew these designs, and then Rob did the modelling for me. And then again, I did the lighting and the colouring and everything here to try and make the 3D look as 2D as possible, because it was important that this 3D shot look 2D at first, so it doesn't jar with the 2D backgrounds we've already seen in the film. And talking of which, here's a few more examples of how we blended 2D and 3D. So here's a camera pull out from our 3D ship, and I've matched that with a piece of 2D animation, which is then layered on top, hopefully seamlessly. Did you notice the seam? I hope not. Same idea again here. The camera's leaving the ship, so we have the model for the exterior. Then we have the interior, which is animated with 2D. There's just two 2D layers there. And then that's then combined with a 3D ball for the final shot. And this is another scene I knew would be very hard to do in 2D animation, so I got help of another animator, Paul Boyd, who set up this 3D particle system for me. so I could have an impossible number of balls falling out of this machine. So as you can see, there's 2D background, 2D door, then 3D balls added, and then 2D shadows animated afterwards to match the balls. Now, the majority of the sound effects in the film were either created or recorded by me or Tom Swift, fellow animator. This is Alex Ashman. I pitched her voice up slightly, and it really worked for the voice of a young girl. And that's an example of Foley. Just finding any way you can to create a sound, and that smacking a cushion with hands really worked for creating those ball sounds.